Welcome to Vanish Voices, a show dedicated to unearthing the stories behind some of history's most captivating cold cases. Today, we're diving deep, deep into the story of the boy in the box.
Yeah, this case, man, it's stuck with people, hasn't it? I mean, decades and decades, and it all goes back to, well, February 1957.
Fox Chase, Philadelphia, right?
That's the one, yeah, a quiet wooded area, and it all starts with, well, you wouldn't believe it, a college student just taking a walk.
I read that he was actually hoping to catch a glimpse of some girls at a nearby home.
That's what they say. But instead of girls, he finds a bassinet box just discarded there, doesn't think much of it at first. I mean, who would?
Not outright.
He even thought the shape inside was a doll.
Can you imagine the moment he realized it wasn't? Chilling.
Yeah. Talk about a grim discovery. And this seemingly ordinary box, it later turned out to be from J.C. Penney. Well, it held a secret, a tragic one.
That would go on to grip the nation.
Exactly. The student, he actually went back to the site a few days later. He'd seen some news reports about a missing girl, and, well, I guess it just stuck with him.
And that's when the real horror unfolded, right?
Yeah.
He found the body.
He did. A young boy's body. Naked, wrapped in I think it was a cheap flannel blanket, just lying there in the box. It's a rough image for sure.
The boy was estimated to be, what, between 3 and 7 years old?
Somewhere in there. And malnourished. Badly. Bruises all over his body. Whoever did this to him, well, they didn't hold back.
And then there's that detail about his hair. Crudely cut, maybe even after death. Like someone was trying to, I don't know, erase him.
Almost dehumanize him. You take away someone's hair, their identity. It's personal. Adds another layer to the whole tragedy.
Yeah, right. And, that image, the abandoned child, all alone, it really resonated with the public. America's unknown child, they called him. Or the boy in the box.
Haunting. And despite all the media attention, the flyers, the facial reconstruction, even appeals on TV, nothing. No one came forward.
Leaving investigators with, well, almost nothing to go on.
Right. No name, no leads, just a mountain of theories. Some more, shall we say, out there than others, but each one trying to explain this senseless tragedy.
And one of the earliest theories, one that really took hold, was the, the foster home theory.
That's the one. Driven by this medical examiner, Remington Bristow, fascinating guy, completely dedicated to the case. He was certain, absolutely convinced, that the boy was connected to a foster home. It was just over a mile from where the body was found.
Proximity. It seems to play such a big role in these cases.
You're telling me. But in this case, there was more to it. Bristow went to an estate sale at this foster home, right, run by a couple, Arthur and Catherine Nicoletti, and what does he find? A bassinet. Nearly identical to the one the boy was found in.
Spooky, huh?
And then there was that psychic.
Don't forget the psychic.
Yeah.
Brought in to help with the case, and guess what? She points Bristow right back to that same foster home, all signs pointing in one direction. It seemed like they were so close to cracking the case wide open. This foster home, the bassinet, maybe the boy was a ward of the state, an illegitimate child. Could it have been an accident? A death covered up out of fear?
You can see why they went down that road. But here's the thing. After a ton of investigation, they couldn't find a direct link to the boy. No connection to the Nicolettis or anyone at the home.
And then came the DNA testing.
Game changer. Ruled out any biological link between the boy and the Nicoletti family. Decades of speculation wiped away just like that.
Such a powerful reminder of how far forensic science has come and its ability to rewrite history almost. But even though the foster home theory was out, the case was far from closed. There were other theories, darker, more disturbing ones, and they were just waiting in the wings.
You know what's really eerie about Martha's confession? Those little details like the boy's condition and the fact that he had baked beans in his stomach, they all seem to line up with her story.
It's like almost too perfect, right? But without hard proof, couldn't this be, I don't know, someone just looking for attention, trying to insert themselves into a famous case? Did they ever actually find anything to connect her mother to the crime?
That's where things get tricky. No physical evidence. Police went all out, talked to neighbors, families, searched everywhere for anything at all that could prove Jonathan existed, but nothing.
So no DNA, no photographs, no records of any kind. Sounds like they hit a wall. A he said, she said situation. What happened in the end with her story?
Well, without that forensic evidence and with no one else to back up her story, the police basically had to, dismiss it, called it unreliable. It's a shame, really, because it's so disturbing, and it fits in some ways, but without proof.
Sometimes the most believable stories just don't pan out.
Oh.
What about other explanations then? Anything else that might shed some light on this?
Oh, there are always other theories. One that keep popping up, since we don't know who the boy is human trafficking, organized crime, that sort of thing.
Because of his age, you mean? And the fact that, well, it seems like someone really wanted to keep him hidden.
Exactly. No identifying marks, a real effort to erase his past. Some people think he might have been part of an illegal adoption ring or even a trafficking network.
A dark thought, for sure, but, I mean, back in the 50s, organized crime was everywhere, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, deep roots. They were involved in all sorts of things, illegal adoptions, trafficking, you name it. It's not crazy to think this boy got caught up in something like that.
So if that's true, his death could have been, what, an accident?
Hmm.
And then they just got rid of the body, quickly, quietly, to protect themselves.
Makes sense, right. And think about it, all that media coverage and no one, not one person recognized him. It's like whoever was responsible wanted him to stay unknown.
The less people knew, the better for them. It's scary to think, even back then, things happening right under our noses.
But again, it's mostly speculation. Just like all the other theories, without knowing who he was, it's hard to say for sure.
It's like a puzzle missing a crucial piece. And that missing piece is the boy's identity. It's a question that's lingered for decades. But as science progressed, especially DNA technology, the possibility of finally uncovering his identity became more and more real.
In 2019, they decided to give it another shot. They exhumed his body, hoping to get some usable DNA. They wanted to use forensic genealogy to try and identify him.
Forensic genealogy, for our listeners who might not know, it's basically using DNA and family history research to identify people and their relatives.
And it had been working, solving other cold cases like that Golden State Killer case, so there was some hope, maybe it could work here too.
So they took his DNA and compared it to, what, millions of samples in these big databases. It must have been like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Oh, absolutely. They were tracing family connections, building a whole family tree going back generations, painstaking work.
And did it pay off?
Well, in 2021, they got a hit. They found some potential relatives on his mother's side. And through more digging, they tracked down a distant cousin, someone who had submitted their DNA to one of those genealogy websites.
So this cousin, they were the key.
They were. That connection gave investigators a specific family to focus on. And with some good old-fashioned detective work, birth records, family trees, all that, they finally figured it out.
Incredible. After all these years, they had a name.
In December 2022, the police announced it to the world. The boy in the box was Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January 13th, 1953.
Joseph Augustus Zarelli. He wasn't just the boy in the box anymore. He had a name, a story, a life. And now, finally, the chance to get some justice. It's a moment, that I think anyone who's been following this case, it's just, wow, he has a name. He's not just a case anymore. He's Joseph. Joseph Augustus Zarelli. And after all this time, well, maybe now he can get some justice. But knowing his name, it's just the beginning, isn't it? We still don't know who was taking care of him or what happened.
And that's where things get complicated, don't they? I mean, we're talking about a 4-year-old boy, completely helpless. Someone was supposed to be looking after him, keeping him safe, figuring out what happened in those last days, weeks, maybe even months of his life. It's crucial.
And it makes you think about our responsibility to children. They're the ones who need us the most. We know Joseph's parents, Augustus and Mary, weren't together when he was born. But that's about all we know. What about their lives, their relationship with Joseph?
The police, they've been careful, and rightfully so, about releasing information about his family. I mean, this is delicate stuff, especially for his siblings. They have no idea he even existed until just recently.
It's like this case, it's not just about solving a mystery, is it? It's about real people. People whose lives have been, well, shattered by this. Finding out about Joseph, I can't imagine what his family must be going through. The shock, the grief, but also maybe some relief, finally knowing what happened to him.
Exactly. But even though we have his name, the investigation, it's not over. That big question, the one that's haunted this case for, over 60 years, it's still there. Who killed Joseph?
And with his name, investigators have somewhere to start now, don't they? They can look into his family history, try to find out about his life before he disappeared. Maybe there's a connection there, someone who could have hurt him.
That's the focus now. Not just who he was, but who did this to him. Hopefully, with this new information, we might finally get some answers, some justice for Joseph.
A little bit of light in all this darkness, and it's a long road. But Joseph's case shows us that even after all these years, it's important to keep searching for the truth, to never give up on justice, no matter how much time has passed.
And it's a testament to how far we've come with forensic science. Those investigators, they never gave up. And because of that, and because of forensic genealogy, we were able to identify him. And hopefully more cases like this can be solved, bringing some closure to the families who've waited so long for answers.
Joseph Augustus Zarelli. The little boy who for so long was just a face in a photograph, a mystery. Now he has his name back, his story. And though his life was cut short, it mattered. He mattered.
His case, it's a reminder to all of us, isn't it? We have to protect children. No child should ever be forgotten, their voice silenced. We need to be there for them, for the most vulnerable among us, to make sure something like this never happens again.
We may never know exactly what happened to Joseph, but his story reminds us to never stop searching for the truth, to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, and to work towards a world where every child is safe, loved, and protected. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the heartbreaking story of Joseph Augustus Zarelli, the boy in the box.